Well, welcome everyone to the Public Safety and Veterans Subcommittee. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Is there any cards called to the public? There's no cards. We'll go to the minutes. Is there
Move to approve.
all right, we have a motion to approve the minutes. We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the minutes pass. We have items 2 to 6 that are consent items. Do I hear a motion on those?
Move approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to move approval on the consent items 2 through 6. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Now we're on item number 7, which is, we have 7 through 9 that are information and discussion. We don't have a screen.
If you're doing most of the presenting, can you switch
Can I switch?
with him? Yes.
Sure.
Thank you.
Apparently so. All right, Chairman Nowakowski, members of the subcommittee. I am joined with Tim Crease with the fire department to talk about the junkyard ordinance and our outdoor storage requirements. As you will recall, this issue was before the subcommittee back in November, where there were some questions by a couple of the council members based upon some calls from their constituents about concerns of safety of really salvage automobile storage when they stack on top of each other, and safety concerns as those customers go into those areas, and whether or not stacking of cars was something that needed some additional regulation associated with those. Here's a couple of pictures, kind of representative of some of the standards that are out there in the community today, typically the older parts of the city that have some industrial zoning. The older stuff doesn't have as much screening requirements because of when it was built and when it, was established at that time. Some of the newer stuff does have more screening requirements associated with it, so there's a little bit of kind of a hodgepodge, you see, but in general, the existing requirements are today that if you have outdoor storage or uses, including vehicles, you have to set them back within 100 feet of a residential zoning district to push those away from the property edge. Open storage is limited to 6 feet in height, at that adjacent property line. And then if you're 150 feet of a public street, you can start to step back up your height provision. So that's where you will get additional height coming up for that storage. Tim Crease will talk a little about the fire code regulations.
Thank you, Director. Chairman Nowakowski, members of the subcommittee, the fire code also has some regulations associated specifically with outside combustible storage, which falls within the scope of junkyards specifically. The height restriction for the fire code is 20 feet, and the reason for that height restriction is to control the size of potential fires and keep those fires small enough to where our operations division can suppress those fires to reduce the tip-over potential of burning materials or piles. So the fire code regulations of 20 feet in height, 20 feet wide, 150 feet long allow our firefighters to control those fires. And they also keep the top of material within reach of conventional firefighting tactics, and it reduces the likelihood that a fire would jeopardize an adjacent property.
So back in November when we were here, the subcommittee asked us to do some research into how other cities regulate this type of use. And so the fire department and planning and development department met, came up with a list of cities that are similar to Phoenix in our area, as well as some other larger cities that are in the West. And we surveyed both the fire code as well as the zoning code to see how they were dealt with in both of those situations. Of the 13 that we sent surveys to, we got 6 responses to. You can see those ones: LA, San Antonio, Las Vegas, Denver, Scottsdale, and Peoria. They all had similar fire code restrictions in that they don't address any stacking concerns. They also had similar zoning code restrictions, which really don't address any stacking concerns either. The zoning code regulations are typically aimed at trying to address the visual appearance of storage, so that as you go up, you have additional, step back requirements to move it away from the property line, but they don't have requirements that you have to use any kind of metal racking or storage system, with the exception of San Antonio. San Antonio is the one city that did require some use of metal racks to store cars on top of other cars. With that, staff is happy to answer any questions and take any further direction on this particular item.
I have a motion.
Any questions? Well, I have a couple questions. So I know that we have 100 feet from residential areas and 150 feet from the public street. So how do we enforce that? Because I would love to take our staff on a field trip down Broadway Road within my district. And just a person driving down the road on Broadway, I can tell you that there's a lot of violations happening right now. So how's the enforcement happening on that?
So Chairman Nowakowski, the zoning ordinance is enforced by the Neighborhood Services Department as part of their inspectors group. They do all of our zoning enforcement. So if there was a complaint, they would go out and investigate. I do know that in some instances, because our setback restrictions they've been around, I want to say, since the early 80s, but there are some properties that have storage that have been out there for a long time, where we've actually had cases that have gone to court, and they were able to show the court that we've been here and we predate those step back requirements, and therefore they don't apply to us, and the court has seen that that was okay to allow them to do that. And that's just because they could establish through aerial evidence and others that there was outdoor junk storage there prior to that ordinance provision. And so there are some nuances like that that we'd have to work through, but certainly through our Neighborhood Services Department zoning enforcement, we could go out and look at each of those cases.
I mean, there's cases where they're actually stacking on our sidewalks, and it's kind of, I mean, I know that's a violation for sure. So I think that I would like to maybe later on speak to you all about the enforcement aspect of it, because individuals are saying that they call and they're not seeing results at all, and that they're just afraid that there's children that are using our sidewalks that are out there now on the Broadway Avenue, and that there's junk cars right in the middle of the sidewalk, and it forces them to go into the street. So I didn't believe it, so I actually have some photographs that I was able to show some of the staffers. So those are the kind of incidences that I believe that's why we're here today talking. And I think it's a lack of the enforcement aspect of it.
Great. Chairman, I'll be happy to reach out to Spencer Self, and we'll reach out to your office and set up a meeting so that Fire and NSD and ourselves can show up, and we can talk a little more about that.
I have a motion.
Well,
You guys.
Councilmember Mendoza?
Thank you both for doing the research on this. I have a motion, and I move to request that staff set up a meeting with the auto scrap yard dealers who have open storage to discuss ways to improve on-site safety and the visual appearance of stacked storage.
Councilmember, I think this is for information and discussion only. Can we bring this back maybe later on so that we can have it as an action?
But, yes, Mr. Chairman, hearing the intent of the motion asking us to do a meeting, we can do the meeting anyway. We can go ahead and do that.
Okay. So we'll take that as a request from Councilmember Mendoza.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now we're on item number 8. Cost of new police officers.
Good morning, Chairman Nowakowski, Mayor, members of the subcommittee. I believe the question was asked what the cost is for a beginning police officer. So for the 24 weeks in the academy and the 28 weeks post-academy, first year, 52-week year, That cost is $111,000. And that's not to be confused with the $156,000 that we call what is the average cost of an officer once, you take all costs in. So again, 111, that includes salary, all fringe, plus $9,000 worth of equipment that you have to outfit that officer with.
Any other questions?
I do have a question. if I could.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate you getting this information. So is that for the initial year then,
Correct.
basically?
Yeah, so the 24 weeks is the academy, so the first 24 weeks, they're at step 5 of a recruit, and then they come out of that the following 28 weeks, which makes up the balance of that 52-week year. They're at step 4 of an officer.
Yeah, and they're out in the street, right?
Correct.
So basically, I guess it's cheaper than the full year of a second-year officer, which is the 156.
Well, the 156, Councilman, that's the total cost of all personal services related to police sworn positions, so from the chief on down. And so then we basically divide that.
That's the
by
average of
total.
everybody.
That's average of everybody.
Not
that's
just
sworn.
a street
That is
officer,
correct.
but includes a chief.
That is
and so-
correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
All right, I was unclear on that before, so
That is
thank you
correct.
for that. Do you have, not necessarily in your head to spit it out right now, so a basic officer that people would see out on patrol?
I don't have that off the top
But
of
it
my
would
head.
be less than 156
It would be.
because.
It would be less. It would be less.
All right, so, and I know we're going to be talking about this issue. I've had issues with body worn cameras because it's expensive. It's $5.7 million capital, right? And then for the cameras themselves.
That's over 5 years, and we'll talk about
Yeah,
that.
but it's 5.7. So, and yeah, that's kind of the way I figured it out. I mean, you could put, just the 2.4 million in ongoing yearly costs for the body camera, which I took it was basically personnel, not including the 5.7 million in the capital cost spread over 5 years. I mean, you could put 21 officers through the academy, the 24 weeks you talked about, and then for the remaining 28 weeks, they'd be out on the street.
That's actually good math. The 20 officers is about right, because you also have to take into account that 111,000 does not include cars. It also does not include any back-of-the-house support staff that the police department may need. Once you get to a place where you're expanding squad size, probably 20 is not going to make the magic number
You have
change.
to hire the cars. Okay, I didn't
Correct.
understand that the way that, I guess I should have thought that.
Yeah,
instead.
but you also have the need for communications and dispatchers.
Okay.
So at some point, once you cross a certain threshold, they need additional support staff.
So the 156, I guess less than 156, but we'll just use 156. That includes car,
No, that's just personal services.
that's just personal.
That's
service.
just
Okay.
personal services,
Glad we're
inclusive
having
of
this
overtime.
discussion. Thank you.
Inclusive of overtime.
Okay. But it includes overtime.
Correct.
So, okay. All right, I appreciate you guys putting this together. It's very helpful for me. There were clearly questions, more specific questions I should have asked, but until I had this, wasn't able to do it. So I may ask, Mr. Chair, at some point to have a further discussion about that, but today is not that day. It's not fair to put you guys on the spot. But I appreciate this very much. It's very helpful for me.
And Councilman, just one more thing. In a couple of weeks, you'll have the salary projection that we do every year, which is what we use to start our discussions with labor. And that does break down for you individual components and categories of individual positions.
Including the capital
It doesn't,
stuff?
no, that's
Okay.
just personal services. That is just personal services.
So I guess I was never clear because I had that higher statistic. I mean, obviously it goes up a little bit every year with inflation, whatever. But I didn't realize that didn't include the 156,000. I thought was all inclusive in putting an officer out on the street.
That's truly just personal services.
Do you break down? Again, I don't expect you to have it now, obviously. Do you have a breakdown, like what's the additional cost for the cars and everything per officer who is out?
No,
patrolling it?
it's a little difficult to do it on a per officer basis because, again, we don't allocate cars to individual officers. Most of police, from a budgetary standpoint, you have a 2-to-1 ratio on a car. Now, that's different depending on different types of specialty units and things of that nature, but a car is about $56,000 fully outfitted.
The car's out there for like 16 hours a day.
Correct.
And basically off, if you will,
Correct.
for about 8 hours.
If you're lucky.
Yeah, right. Okay, I'm just trying, I think you know what I'm getting at. I'm
I
trying
do.
to, what are we foregoing by doing the cameras? and
I would,
Ongoing expenses.
I would say you're.
In terms of officers.
I
we
would
could
say
hire.
between 15 to 20 officers. Again,
Includes the 5.7 million in initial, because obviously that could be used for cars.
it could, but remember that 5.7, and I'll talk to you a little bit later about the presentation. That 5.7 is a 5-year cost.
Understand.
So
Yeah,
you're
so I
really,
did break it
so you're
down
really
by-
talking about $1.1 million or so, give or take, for that Axon contract.
I actually spread it over 10 years just to, you know, because that's a lot of money. We may not be repeating it, obviously, or wouldn't plan to with this, but, okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, fellas. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Mendoza.
I have a follow-up question to Councilman Waring. On personal services, does that include any cost of pension?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah, so when we talk personal services, we're talking about your salary plus all associated fringe. So for police officers, that would be, you know, your FICA, it would be your pension, it would be CEP, everything that an officer gets or any sworn position gets associated with their salary.
Thank you.
Another one, Michael, I'm sorry.
Absolutely,
Please.
Vice Mayor.
So, from what I remember, and I guess it would be probably last year's data, for every 100,000 in salary, it's 67,000
Roughly,
for the
yes.
benefit package.
Yes, and that number is going up, and you'll see that it's about 71% next year, I believe, based on the latest valuation.
So that's not just pension.
That's pension.
That's just pension.
That's
And
just
then the
pension.
other benefits are, see,
On
I
top
thought it
of
was
that.
just pension, but then she
On
mentioned
top
the
of
other.
that.
So, how much is the other?
It varies. I'd have to, I can't give you.
So
a
that's
number off the top of my
dependent
head.
on,
Right.
you know, dependents, I suppose, and
Correct.
so forth. So, yeah, because
Correct.
insurance would be different for different people. Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
Any other questions for my colleagues? Just one quick question. So in the top 10 cities, are we on the upper end, lower end, or in the middle?
That I don't know. That's probably a better question for HR, and based on some of the data that I think they'll be sharing with you as we move forward in the labor negotiations process.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much. Now we're on item number 9, which is police training. Good morning, Chief. How you doing?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee. Lou, if you would, thank you. We're here to present to you information on our training bureau, currently what we do, what we've done, and looking forward to the future of how we're going to train our in-service, which means police officers who are already officers, and then our basic recruits. Also in the audience with us today, we have Lieutenant Brian Chapman and Lieutenant Brian Izzett, who helped Commander Jen LaRock, who's sitting right to my right, run the academy. Also sitting with me is Commander Louis Tovar, who ran the academy for a number of years before promoting to Assistant Chief. So as I mentioned to you before, there kind of are two divides at the academy. One is recruits, or folks who want to become police officers and are going through the process to be certified. The second piece is going to be our in-service training, and that's training for police officers like ourselves who are currently gun-carrying officers. Arizona Post requires 585 hours in order to be certified to be a police officer. We'll talk a little bit more about this in the presentation, but we add on another approximately 200 hours of additional training just to make sure we're covering things that need to be covered in modern day policing. At the bottom, you see that we are required by Arizona Post, again, the certification body that allows us to be police officers, to have 8 hours of proficiency skills every 3 years, which could be anything from driving track to de-escalation to mental health, you name it, that's what it could be. As well as 8 hours of continuing education annually, which could be anything from hazardous materials to handcuffs to new laws to citations, you name it. And last but not least, because we do carry firearms, we are required by Arizona Post to qualify every year in firearms as well as decision-making. And that's a decision-making machine where the officer goes in and there are a certain number of scenarios and it's a pass-fail for the decision-making. Next slide, please. So Commander LaRock and her team have been really good about making sure that we are a forward-focused police department and that we don't train the way we were trained when I was trained 30 years ago. So 30 years ago, when you walk on scene at the training bureau, you're yelled at, you're screamed at. It's very much a militaristic environment. Commander LaRock and her team are really moving towards that adult learning scenario and setting while still keeping in mind that we still need to be trained for stress scenarios and situations. So this coming year, we are going to have 6 all-Phoenix classes, which means no other agencies are going to be involved in our classes, which is really going to allow us to really pinpoint the Phoenix way of doing business. And that's being compassionate, that's communicating, that's customer service, you name it, we're going to do it. Thank you, Louis. And then the next 3 points we'll talk a little bit more about, and Jen definitely is much more the subject matter expert than I am in the neuroscience piece, but our focus is really going to be on decision-making, critical thinking, and communication. I'll talk a little bit about the whole neuroscience issue. So what Commander LaRocque and her team did is, with your approval, we were allowed to purchase headsets that are trying to change the mindset and understand what's going on with the brain when a critical incident is happening, and that officer has to make that split-second decision. So it's designed to assess and improve the officer's critical thinking skills to better address performance during violent encounters and under stress. So that is brand new. We're really proud of that, and hopefully that will be nationally recognized additionally. Critical thinking, when we talk about de-escalation tactics, we're talking about handcuffing, talking people through scenarios and situations. The critical thinking part too, I can think about when I'm going through the scenarios, the 3 decision-making scenarios, and there is an agitated individual walking back and forth around a car. He's reaching his hand in a backpack. He's reaching his hand out of a backpack. What are you going to do? And those are those kind of critical decision-making skills, and it's a shoot, don't shoot situation. Last but not least, communication skills and problem solving. We want our officers to be able to communicate with people. What we're finding with this generation is they're really good about this, really good about texting and talking via text. But as a police officer, you have to be able to have that face-to-face conversation, and they're definitely working on that. Next slide. For in-service training, so remember again, in-service are those of us who are police officers. We have the same focus. It's decision-making, it's critical thinking, and communication. What we're fortunate to have in this instance, too, is because of the lessons that we learned last year with all of our critical incidents, the Training Bureau is able to make adjustments on the fly in training so that we're going through some of the scenarios that we had in 2018 as far as firearms and less lethal and decision-making, and we're able to adjust. We're also able to, thankfully, with Commander LaRocque and her team, to be able to have squads come to the academy and train. If they want to be trained on de-escalation, if they want to be trained on small teams tactics, they're setting up training functions for them and doing that. I also want to mention too, and I don't know if that's in the next slide. So critical thinking is critically important. Communication is important. I also want to make note though too, so when we talk about mental health is woven into everything that we do at the Police Academy. We start in basic training, we start in service, and you all know that we have our crisis intervention team squads. We have 2 squads of people that go through 80+ hours of training. They're certified. We have 500 or so of those officers, and about 300 of them are in patrol. Also know that we added in a component for our for our brand new recruits, that when they graduate from the academy, they get 40 additional hours or 1 more additional week of crisis intervention team training. Now, that's not the same training that the crisis intervention team squad has, but it's 1 more tool on the tool belt for them to use, and we added that in 2017. Keep clicking, Louis, thank you. Our active shooter intervention, so we realized over time in looking at the rest of the country, all the active shooter situations that were going on across the country. So Commander LaRocque and her team have been to schools, to zoos, to hospitals, to hotels, to you name it, running active shooter scenarios and situations, and they've run different squad through those scenarios too, so that our officers know the options of going in, walking in, and making sure that they take care of the situation when they get there. Next is use of force and de-escalation. There are 10 hours of de-escalation. I should go back to the mental health piece at the top. Officers get 7.5 hours or 40 hours, just depending on if it's in service or if they're brand new recruits. But keep in mind, mental health, they can always apply to become a crisis intervention team officer, which is an additional 80 hours and additional certification. Implicit bias training, so proud of this training. As a matter of fact, it's going on at the academy as we speak. Some of you remember the Community Policing Trust Initiative made some recommendation years ago about implicit bias training. Our city had a trainer, it didn't work out. We were fortunate enough to have Chief Kurtenbach and Chief Tovar go to Atlanta and meet Dr. Bryant Marks, who has trained LAPD, LASO, and is currently on staff to train all of our department mandated training between now and March. So sworn officers have 8 hours of implicit bias training, and our non-sworn side have 4 hours. All of command staff has been trained in implicit bias. We all attended on December 7th. And last but not least, e-learning, very proud of this. I'll be honest, I don't think I was necessarily a fan when it was introduced to me earlier. but it is a way for us to provide learning topics for our employees without them having to go to the police academy. As you know, we're spread out in 525 square miles, and it's tough to get officers from Black Mountain Precinct down to the academy to train. So there are 60 classes that are offered online, and it's about 100 hours of Arizona Post Certified training. So we take anything from hazardous material training to learning how to write new citations online, and it's really been a game changer for our agency in order for us to maintain current training. So with that, that completes my end of the presentation. I would like to ask, if I could, Mr. Chairman, Commander LaRock to talk about the changes to the customer service and onboarding our new employees when we begin all of our On Phoenix classes.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chair, members of the subcommittee, we have made some changes for 2019. For the Versus headsets, we basically are focusing on adding some hours onto our firearms training, and that is to make sure that we include some of the decision-making and critical thinking aspects of our training academy. So with the headsets, we are able to not only get officers to perform at peak performance while under stress, we also do it in a training environment where we can allow tactics leading up to a critical incident to perhaps change the outcome of our scenario. So because of that, we've added 20 more hours on so we can use some of that training incorporated into our proficiency skills, which would be our firearms. In addition to that, we've also added mental health and some of this training into all of our continuing education as well as our recruit type training. So I think it will be very beneficial for 2019.
And then if you talk a little bit about when the first weeks of the All Phoenix classes come on, how we're indoctrinating
Yes.
them and introducing them to the process.
So for communication skills, we have scenarios that we will start in week 1, and these particular scenarios for communication purposes will focus on a recruit outcome. So when the recruit is having a negative interaction, if they react negatively, they're going to go downhill and fail that scenario. However, if they notice the cues that that particular scenario is going negative, they can recover, and we'll provide the skills for them. We'll talk those through. They'll be able to recover and bring that communication, that incident back to a positive response. So we basically are rewarding them with positive communication, verbal skills. And again, we'll start that in week 1 and carry those small scenarios throughout the academy to the end.
And then our main hope in that is how we treat our recruits is how they treat the rest of the public. How we treat our employees is how they treat the public. And so I think this change that we're talking about making is going to make us a better police department.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for my colleagues? Mayor?
Back towards the very beginning, when you talked about an annual review test or standard, does that also include a review of physical shape, condition?
Want to answer that?
Just asking. I've been asked that many times.
Mr. Chair, members of the subcommittee, so are you talking about for recruit training?
No. she's
Okay,
talking
for
about
in-service? No, in-service, we do not have a physical fitness component.
Ask why not?
So there's probably a myriad of reasons why I think we did away with that prior to me leaving the first time that I came back. We do offer, though, the option that if someone wants to be physically fit, we do have, and have just applied for a National Foundation Study award on physical fitness. So the reason why is because we're able to show job fitness in other ways. But we are strongly encouraging our employees to be healthy physically as well as emotionally, too.
Councilmember Mendoza?
Thank you. I probably missed it, but how many weeks are the recruits in the academy?
Mr. Chair, members of the subcommittee, currently from the previous year, it was, depending on holidays, about 22 weeks.
Okay. 22 weeks. So in 22 weeks, how many hours specifically do you have training on mental health and de-escalation?
So, Mr. Chair, members of the subcommittee, we do have, like the chief said, we have 585 hours of mandated training that we have per AZ post requirement. On top of that, within the 200-plus hours of training, we have mental health-related training, which we've incorporated into our defensive tactics, which is our handcuffing, et cetera, with our scenario-based training. We have a total of about 85 hours. And that's including our post-academy and our basic training academy.
So once they're in service, do they still get those 85 hours of mental health? Or no?
So once they are in service, they...
How many hours?
Yeah,
do they
so inside all of the training, such as we've got the 7.5 hours of actual specific mental training, which we do with the fire department, and that's incorporating e-learning and also hands-on training with the fire department in conjunction with the fire department. In addition, our active shooter intervention training, our use of force options de-escalation training, those are each 10 hours apiece, and they incorporate a mental health component into the scenario. In addition to that, we are going to be offering catalog courses. When we first started those, they're simply courses for different types of training. For example, an ambush in a car, for example. We offer these types of training courses anywhere from 3 to 10 hours apiece, and they will always incorporate de-escalation mental health component inside those as well.
Okay, and your in-service officers, is it per year that they have to do this training, or every other year, or how does that work?
So for in-service training, we are mandating the mental health training. We're mandating the active shooter intervention training, the use of force options de-escalation training, the implicit bias training, and then there's certain e-learning courses that we are also mandating. And then again, with the catalog courses, there will be those will be optional courses that they can take.
So
They're
if
not
I can
mandated.
answer the question, the answer is yes, every year, everyone's going to have to be required to complete those components and courses. But what I think is being lost sometimes is the fact that with every scenario, every situation, every active shooter, we're weaving in there certain components of mental health to make our folks have to make a decision whether or not they escalate or de-escalate.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I have a couple questions, just points that I took out of the presentation. So we have about 585 hours of standard training, right?
Yes, that's in order to be a post-certified officer. Anyone in the state has to have that, yes.
And the city of Phoenix actually goes over 200 besides
That's
that
right.
500.
We go over beyond that, and we've been really good about doing that even when Chief Tovar was at the academy, sir.
Already. And then the other thing I want to comment is back on December 15th, I was invited to a annual mental health celebration for the holidays where it was Michelle Crusoe's family puts it together along with the police officers. And it was just incredible to see all the different community services that are out there, agencies, nonprofits that deal with mental health issues. There was over 300 people there that were getting information on their loved ones that might be involved in mental health issues. And to see the police officers there intertwining and mingling and being invited to go up on the stage with the family and talk about the partnership that you all have with the families, that shows what we should really be doing. I was very proud, and to stand up there on the stage and look throughout the crowd and see our police officers along with all the nonprofits and organizations that are out there serving. So I want to thank you for that good work, and those are the type of programs that people really don't talk about, or events that people don't really see, but it's what our police officers are involved with, and I know that you are their police chief, and I don't know if you want to comment on that, or...
Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, thank you for that. So what we learned from the Crusoe circumstance is that we need to learn, grow, and improve and be compassionate. So out of that tragedy came the 2 crisis intervention team squads that go around the city helping not only our police officers, but also serve mental health orders It was great to see the SWAT team. It was great to see the Crusoe family standing together right next to us.
Right.
Public safety, when, to be honest, they had every reason not to stand there with us. So as you, I was very proud to stand there at that moment, sir.
And just for my colleagues, they told me to express the thanks to the city of Phoenix and to our police department for all their good work and how they worked along with the family members. They had family members that came in from California and Texas just to be a part of this. They gave out over 500 toys or so to individuals, but these weren't just little toys, they were bicycles, and it's just incredible, the event. So thank you all for reaching out to that family and making a bad situation to something beautiful, and it's a legacy for Michelle now. With that, we have one card. Absolutely.
I want to commend Commander Larac for her new approach and the new training that we're going to start doing, focusing on customer service and communication and just being compassionate. So I just want to thank you for that, and that's great. I think that's something that the community is going to appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have one card for to speak. Mrs. Rogers, come on down. If you can make sure that the button's turned on.
Got it,
Thank you, Chief.
I think we all know you. You're nationally known now.
You know who I am. Whether you like it or not, that's your choice. But I am a longtime practicing citizen in this city. Not an attorney, not an accountant, a citizen. There are two things that need to be addressed in a very definitive, purposeful, and time-accomplished manner. You need to replace old equipment, i.e. fire trucks, in the fire department. Since I spoke at council meeting a month ago, I've had calls from members of both PPD and PFD, unsolicited by me. And you have trucks that are over 16 years old, which is supposedly the outer time limit for a truck, a fire truck, to be dependable and effective.
Mrs. Rogers, out of all due respect, this is about police training, and then we have call to the public at the very
Okay, well,
end.
you need in police training and fire training both. You need to broaden your horizon in recruitment. I had a talk with one of the assistant chiefs after the last council meeting that I attended when it went national, I guess. I don't have all that equipment, so I wasn't aware of it, but I've had plenty of calls. You need to increase both fire and police recruitment and training. I don't know if you need to reevaluate your entry-level offering of salary or not, but it needs to be looked at. A city this size can't limp with a non-complementary police department and fire department. We can't afford the risk. And you can't expect people to do more than they're physically and mentally and emotionally capable of doing in a 24-hour day. And fire, I know, works 24 on and 48 off. I don't know what police does in that regard. But you need to broaden your thinking and your horizon, both financially and effectively in your personnel policies with regard to these two essential departments, any incorporated community, I
Mrs.
don't care
Rogers,
if
your
it's this
time-
big
your
or that
time's- your
big,
time's
needs
up,
police and fire.
Thank you. And Mrs. Rogers, we have you for the next issue, and then I'll put you down for public comment also,
You want me to go back and sit down?
if you can, ma'am. Thank you. Any other comments from my colleagues? Any closing remarks from the chief?
No, just thank you for the opportunity, and the mayor and council have been really good about allowing us to make, adjust, and improve as far as recruitment. One piece that I know that I shared with the boss, I haven't shared with the subcommittee, is the fact that we've moved recruitment under Office of Administration because we know how critically important it's going to be to hire. We've hired over 300 people this last year, and we're looking forward to making sure we can fill seats in each of the 6 all-Phoenix classes. So thank you for that.
Great. Thank you, chief. Oh, one more.
How many more do we still need?
How many more officers?
So in order for us to get to 3125, I would, another 300 or so folks in order to get to 3125 that we need to hire.
If you're out there listening and watching this show, if you want to be a police officer, come on down. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, absolutely. One more question
One
for the
more
mayor.
question. How many retired this year or left?
Said,
Are
how
we
many
staying-
left last year?
Yeah, are we billing, are we keeping even, I guess is what I'm asking.
So I would need to look to Chief Kurtenbach to answer that question, if you would, sir. Sorry.
Chairman Nowakowski, Mayor Williams, we are keeping even, and we're actually making headway with the support in the mayor of the council. We're hiring above attrition. To answer your question, we average about 16 officers a month of all ranks that we lose to retirement. But we're realizing a net gain now.
Good answer. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you so much. And next time, Chief Tovar, we'll get some questions to you. All righty, we're on item number 10. I think the chief's still in the hot seat there. Body cameras.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee. This is a topic that we have addressed in various forums with you. Today, we want to have a comprehensive discussion about body-worn cameras. We want to talk about procurement, which, as you know, we went through a second procurement process. We also worked through a delay due to
We're just trying to get the
slides up.
PowerPoint up. There we go. Sorry about that.
Due to litigation between vendors. We will talk to you about the selection of the product and why Chief feels it's important for the choice that we're making. We will outline a deployment strategy for the body-worn cameras. We will address the staffing issue, which is intricately connected to it. Also, the redaction aspect of it and public records. And then finally, Mr. Barton will address, from a financial standpoint, how the city would be able to address it. So with that, we'll start with the chief.
So, Mr. Dohoney, members of the subcommittee, thank you so much for the opportunity to at least begin the discussion process with you. So you all are aware, I believe, that we've had body-worn cameras on Phoenix police officers since 2011. That initial project started with Chief Kurtenbach out in Maryville Precinct. As I was onboarding in 2016, we were going through a procurement process, and in knowing some of the things that I knew about body-worn cameras and upcoming technology, I wasn't so certain that the product that we were initially going to pick was going to be the best product, not just for the officers, but for the community. Most specifically, we added on to the new vending process, or the new procurement process, 42 mandatory requirements is what we added. The top 3 for me were high definition, low light visibility, and last but not least, auto activation. And when I mean auto activation, I mean, is there something on the officer that as soon as they either open the door, turn on the light bar, that auto activates the camera when it's supposed to be activated? And I want it more than just from the holster, which means that if the officers pull their gun from the holster, the camera would automatically turn on. There were many instances where our officers didn't even have time to drop from the holster in order to be able to do that. With Axon Enterprises, we were able to come up with a solution to the 42 mandates, as well as the top 3 that I mentioned to you prior to. That vendor is also a vendor that currently works together with other agencies in the county, which makes it a very seamless process in order for us to have this to happen. So as you know, we currently have 300 body-worn cameras on our officers in patrol. They are assigned all across the city, but what we're finding is that there have been critical incidents where officers didn't have a body-worn camera because they hadn't been assigned. We also have cameras on our crisis intervention team officers. Those are those 2 mental health squads that we have. So I'm excited about the fact that if approved by you all, we will increase trust with our community, we will increase officer safety, and will eliminate human error of having to turn off and on body-worn cameras as dictated. Also know, because there have been questions asked about policy, that we've made adjustments to policy, meaning that if an officer doesn't have a body-worn camera activated when it's supposed to be, that is an automatic written reprimand which stays in an officer's file for 3 years. So Chief Kurtenbach has definitely been at the tip of the spear in running through this process and is recognized as a national expert in body-worn cameras. So I would like to turn it over to him to discuss rollout strategy and other questions. Chief Kurtenbach.
Thank you, Chief. As the Chief said, we were an early adopter of body-worn camera technology. In fact, some of you may recall the first iteration of the cameras we deployed in spring of 2011 that were a head-mounted camera attached with a cable to a unit on the chest, attached to another cable that was on the officer's belt. We learned a lot from that first experience. And because we have that experience, the City Prosecutor's Office and the Police Department both are going to build upon that nearly 8 years to ensure an effective and efficient rollout pending approval of this new technology. So a comprehensive schedule has been developed that will be divided into 2 phases. The first, as part of the first phase, we need to take all of the existing cameras, the 300 cameras that Chief Williams mentioned, offline. We don't want to have 2 existing platforms, 2 different platforms existing at the same time. That'll take just a matter of days to do so. That'll conclude on a Sunday evening so that effective on Monday morning with day shift, we can begin training and deploying the new cameras. So this first phase of deployment will involve outfitting, training, and deploying approximately 1,400 cameras in the patrol division to all first responder officers and sergeants. Sergeants is key. When we first rolled out the technology in Maryville Precinct, we put the cameras on supervisors as well, as they are actively involved in decision-making in the field, and they respond to calls on a regular basis. So the deployment schedule that we put together, which you will see here in just a minute, specifically corresponds with the geographic distribution of officer-involved shootings in 2018. So the rollout will begin in the Maryville-Estrella Mountain Precinct and is anticipated to take no longer than 2 weeks to outfit, train, and deploy to all of the precincts approximately 225 first responder officers and sergeants. At the same time we are training and deploying to the officers in the precinct, we will also deploy to the officers on our 2 crisis intervention squads. Chief Williams talked in detail about the crisis intervention squads in the earlier training presentation. Remember that they serve all of the emergent mental health pickup orders that they can, in addition to other pickup orders, and provide critical support to patrol on our special assignments unit. Once we are assured that any challenges that are unforeseen have been mitigated, then we will move on from the Maryville-Estrella Mountain Precinct to the other precincts in the order that I'll go through here in just a minute. We want to do that as opposed to a scattered sites approach to ensure that we address issues in one precinct before moving on. So as listed here, we will move from Maryville, Estrella Mountain to Mountain View, down to South Mountain, up to Cactus Park, then to Central City, Desert Horizon, and Black Mountain. Once all of the patrol cameras have been deployed, then we will put cameras on 3 additional assignments that are not traditional patrol assignments. Those are the Downtown Operations Unit, the Traffic Unit, and the Transit Unit. I don't think the average public can differentiate between most first responder call-taking officers and those details because they all wear uniforms like you see the Chief and I wearing today. This increased camera deployment and the corresponding auto-activation technology that Chief Williams talked about will require the addition of additional and accompanying support staff to manage all the data that the program will generate. Upon reaching a full deployment of 2,000 cameras, a total of 30 staff positions will be required to manage all of the body-worn camera video. Of these, 9 positions are currently filled, 6 in the police department, 3 in the city prosecutor's office. The city prosecutor's office has a 4th position that is currently a temporary position. These positions are dedicated exclusively to support the body-worn camera program. The police department will require 17 total positions, 11 of which will be new. The city prosecutor's office, 13 positions, 10 of which will be new. It's important to note that these staff positions will be added incrementally as needed. That doesn't mean that on day one of the deployment we need all 30 positions. We will add positions based on the need of the units that are identified by the police department and the prosecutor's office. It's also anticipated that advancements in redaction technology will significantly accelerate the redaction process. Now, this is critical because that will reduce the time for case prep and fulfilling public records requests that come in for the community for those videos that are subject to release. The police department worked closely with the finance department and the budget and research department to ensure that we're doing everything appropriately and that we are good stewards of the tax dollar. Here to speak in greater detail about the costs associated with the body-worn camera program is Budget and Research Director Jeff Barton.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief. Members of the subcommittee, we're fortunate that the council in 2016 had the wherewithal and the foresight to allocate funds for the body-worn camera program and its implementation. If you recall, back at that time, we started discussing the implementation of body-worn cameras in detail. The estimated annual cost was about $5 to $7 million a year at that point in time. With that being said, this council allocated one-time resources of $5 million in a set-aside specifically for body-worn cameras. And we've been carrying those dollars forward each and every year until we get to this point. But what I want to do is walk you through the annual costs of the body-worn camera program. As the chief mentioned, there are currently 10 support staff currently operating and supporting the existing body camera program. They cost about $800,000 a year. As we discussed a little bit earlier with Councilman Waring in the cost per officer discussion, the Axon contract for hardware, software, as well as maintenance is estimated to be about $5.7 million over the life of the contract, which is 5 years. That breaks down to just a little over $1.1 million annually. And then, as the chief mentioned, there's a request for essentially 20 positions today, one of which is to convert an existing temporary position to regular. Those positions will cost about $1.6 million per year. So the ongoing annual cost of a fully implemented body-worn camera program is about $3.5 million. So how do we pay for that? My recommendation is as follows. One, again, we have the $5 million set aside that was included in the 16-17 budget process, and we've included and carried that dollar amount forward. Additionally, the police department has about $600,000 remaining in residual grants from a variety of different sources, inclusive of the Gila River tribal community as well as the Department of Justice. What I would like to do, what I recommend doing from a financial perspective, is taking those two fund sources together, $5.6 million, and encumbering and allocating those against the Axon contract. That covers the contract essentially for the course of 5 years. Then what I'm seeking or requesting today, along with the police department, is that we allocate an additional $1.6 million in general funds for the cost of the new positions today. And so what that means is by allocating that $5.6 million to the contract, the ongoing annual cost over and above what we already have would be $1.6 million up until fiscal year 22-23.
A couple, actually, if I could. So the total annual cost is $3.5 million a year for 5 years.
Correct.
In the 6th year, you paid off the capital costs of the cameras.
Well, the way the contract is structured, there's an annual amount that you're paying, which includes the cost for the software maintenance as well as the storage. So don't think of the 5.6, Councilman, as truly capital cost and it goes away. It's basically an annual maintenance agreement and license for the cameras, if I'm not
In the
mistaken.
grant and the general fund set aside, we've
We'll
only
pay
got
for
money for that for the first 5 years.
Correct.
So we're really,
You're committing to $3.5 million a year program.
don't take this the wrong way, guys. You guys will be gone. I guess I could still potentially be here. But we're really committing council people, unless they want to cut the program in year 6. So I guess we started this year like 2025. In fairness, when most of this council is going to be gone, if not all, they're going to have to find another way to find that money every year, the $1.1 million.
Well, I wouldn't say that they would have to find another way to pay for that. What
Oh,
I
wait,
would,
there's no general fund set aside
Right.
anymore, that's done, and the
correct.
600,000 in
But
grants is gone.
as you'll
so-
see in my 5-year forecast, when I come back, what I will be showing to you in the 5-year forecast is the full year cost. In that year, 22-23, you will see $3.5 million allocated to the general fund for the body worn camera program. So it essentially becomes, it would be an ongoing program at that point in time. So again, as we do with
So
all
we've
of our
added
other
to our
programs.
base budget.
Correct.
I mean, we've kind of forced future councils into paying for it, unless they want to cut it, which would be controversial by then. I mean, you see what I'm saying? I mean, that money could be spent on something else that's also ongoing. Okay, I thought the 5.7 million, once it was done, was at least done, figuring we probably had to buy some new cameras or, you know.
No, and I think the chief mentioned the way the contract is structured, the contract provides for the cameras to be replaced every 3 years. So you'll get 2
So
replacements.
that's built into the cost. But what I didn't understand is we have to keep paying the 1.1 million to continue doing that. So the cameras aren't free. I mean, it's 1.1 million.
Correct.
So I mean, it's definitely not free.
It's really not the cameras that you're really paying for. What
Right,
you're
it's
paying
the
for
other
is the
stuff, I
software
understand.
and the storage of the video.
I'm using that probably in an exact broad term, but rather than all the other stuff that goes with it. The 1.6 million in additional general funds is not really hiring officers, it's hiring the 30 civilians.
Correct.
And then 1 sergeant? Is
The
that
one
built?
sergeant is already an existing position
Okay,
that the
so
police
that's not-
department has.
So, all right, you've already got 300 cameras out in the field, and they're paid for with the grant. Is that a true statement, or at least partially paid for with the grant?
Chairman Nowakowski, Vice Mayor Waring, it is partially true. We use some grant funds, we use some general fund to buy those cameras.
So the grant, it's ASU, right? Isn't,
There's a variety of grants.
variety of different grants? Okay,
ASU is our research partner.
Oh,
on two.
research partner, I'm sorry, okay, so yeah, I guess they would be giving a grant, but they're studying this, but, so they don't care, and the grant funders, I guess, don't care what kind of camera you're using. So those weren't tied together in any way, so we can still use the grant money, because I was gonna ask about that, but he obviously put it in his thing. The 300 cameras, and I don't know how to get to this exactly, but how often, I'm sure people make public records requests, as we've had discussed in this committee before, for all kinds of things that maybe wouldn't be in the newspaper, aren't necessarily shootings or anything like that. I'm not saying all interactions with police aren't serious, but obviously there are levels. The 300 cameras, how often have they helped us with a lawsuit or helped us solve a case? By us, I of course mean the police department, not myself. I mean, is there any way to track that?
Chairman Nowakowski, Vice Mayor Waring, let me do it this way. So with the 300 cameras that we have over the last 20 months, we average over 30,000 activations per month. So we're creating over 30,000
Officer turning on the
individual
camera, not people
files.
asking for it.
Yeah, individual videos every month. With the staff we have today, we are able to manage the public records requests that come in relative to those cases. It's very hard to quantify how much value there is in having the technology because it prevented certain litigation, because the video is what it is, a term I used to hate but I've come to embrace. When I was out in Maryville, in the Maryville-Estrella Mountain Precinct, we had several incidents that could have been detrimental, that because of the presence of video, and the first ASU study showed a 65% reduction in unfounded complaints against officers who were wearing the cameras.
People understand there's a camera, and so an unmerited complaint wouldn't be well received since it's all on video.
Correct. There was a 23% reduction in use of force by officers that were wearing the cameras. And there was also, as I mentioned, that nearly 2/3 increase in unfounded complaints against officers. What the camera technology has shown locally and nationally is there's a civilizing effect when people know that they're being filmed by the officers who are wearing the camera and by the people they are filming.
How come it doesn't work at our council meetings? Sorry, that's well, it's true. I mean, I don't know. We're obviously having different.
That'd be fun.
I don't know. So you would expect to extrapolate that. So 1,400, basically 5 times as many cameras out in the field as we have now. I'm not talking about any specific individual case, but obviously, as fiduciaries of the city, we sit in and hear you guys present, and we got this case, we're being sued for that. I don't remember it may have happened, but I don't remember in any specific instance where it's like, oh, we were gonna get sued, but you know, this video, once we looked at it, we're not, or that's not an artful way to say it, where this video, when it's shown to the jury, is gonna really help us out. I can't remember any big case. Is there something in the past that you could talk about, not an ongoing case, where, boy, it was really, that saved a lot of money and helped offset the cost, you know, which are not inconsiderable costs.
Chairman Nowakowski.
If you don't know
and
right
Vice Mayor
now,
Waring.
if
No,
you- yeah.
so while there isn't a specific case that I can point to, what I can tell you in the first ASU study, what they specifically looked at was the effect of the technology on domestic violence prosecution.
Right.
And what the study showed, and I don't remember the exact percentage off the top of my head, was a significant increase in prosecutions whenever the video was present.
Increase in prosecution. Okay.
Yes. In simplistic terms, it was no longer a he said, she said.
Yeah.
We had
I got
video
what
that
you're
would
saying.
document some spontaneous utterances and different behaviors.
So you said 30, so the 300 cameras, you're saying 30,000 times it got turned on a month, and they turn it on, an officer would turn it on every time they have an interaction with a citizen. I go up and ask for directions. They don't know what I'm going to ask. They see a citizen approaching. They turn on the camera.
Our policy, I wrote it so I can speak to it, our operations order is very clear that officers are to activate the technology anytime they engage in an investigative or enforcement contact. Chief Williams talked about auto activation. There are obviously times that you wouldn't turn it on, using the restroom, having a privileged conversation with a spouse, significant other, or partner, whatever the case may be. But we want them to turn it on, and then if it just ends up being that, they can turn it off, and they don't need to continue to increase a larger file under the scenario that you described. But auto activation will reduce a lot of that, not only the human error, it'll create more files.
It sort of implies, those numbers to me sort of imply, I think I'm doing the math right, trying to do it in my head, always dangerous. Each officer is having about 1,000 interactions a month?
Each officer,
Or is having
100.
100 interactions, sorry, 100 interactions a month. Yeah, it's a lot of interactions. And again, I'm just trying to get at, you know, if we hired the 20 officers we talked about earlier, that's a lot of interactions that aren't going to happen because we don't have as many officers, by definition. Balancing that with the, you know, we might have more meritorious prosecutions like you're talking about with domestic violence, or, you know, with the bigger cases, when we're getting sued because somebody got injured or what have you, or there's use of force, it might help us in court make the case, look, here's what happened. The person was shooting at our guy first or something, or that, whether that was unclear, or what have you. But it doesn't sound like there are really examples so far with these 300 cameras for 20 months of that, where it really helped out. It may still come. You know, you'd have 5 times as many cameras almost.
Vice Mayor, I can give you one specific example where, under normal circumstances, we could anticipate that our officers would have been sued for their behavior. When I was out in Maryville, under the initial rollout, we had officers respond to a fight call where they effected an arrest off of 43rd Avenue in Thomas. Subsequent to that arrest, the gentleman that they took into custody had medical distress, and he subsequently died in our custody, a traditional, what we would describe as an in-custody death. Both officers were camera wearers, and it showed that they handled the situation appropriately from the very beginning. They recognized signs and symptoms of what we would refer to as excited delirium. It was June, it was day shift. They didn't put him in the back of a patrol car. They got him to shade. They asked for the fire department. They gave him water. They took the handcuffs off, and he still died. We were not sued. I would say it's fair to say at the table more often than not we would have been sued. While I can't put a dollar value on that incident, that is an actual incident that we had
But that's
happen in
exactly the kind of
precinct.
scenario that I was looking for. So you did come up with one. It's just how many of those, but as anybody who's sat in our committee, you know, one bad case can cost a lot of money. And even if it's a bad case for the person suing us, a lot of times, you know, we might choose to settle because it's easier, and that's unfortunate. Okay. Well, that is what I was looking for. That was an example, scenario I hadn't come up with. Thank you. I didn't mean to belabor it.
Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely, Mr. Mahoney.
Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, in addition to the question that the Vice Mayor raised, so yes, there is a hedge factor attached to this product. And we believe that hedge factor is in the best interest of the community. because we've seen instance after instance in cities across the country where there is this close call encounter between an officer and a member of the public. And essentially the city is put in the position to say, take our word for it. And the public has said, we're not taking your word for it. Having the camera helps alleviate the emotional explosion that's always a potential when there is that close call encounter. So in addition to the direct benefits that we're citing, we think we help ourselves by having the camera so we can actually see what actually happened out there. And that's part of the reason that we want to roll it out all at once, and part of the reason that we believe that trust in the community will be increased if we are successful in getting your approval.
I do have one card. I'm not sure if we should.
Okay, I have some questions for you.
Okay.
Questions too.
Daryl, if you want to come on up. Alrighty. Mayor?
Chief, what did you tell me the life expectancy of that camera is? And what's the contract say?
Chairman Nowakowski, Mayor Williams. So what we were able to broker in this 5-year contract is after 3 years, we get new cameras. And not the current version of the camera, because as Chief Williams alluded to, technology changes. It's the next iteration of the cameras at 36 months with no additional cost.
Okay. My next question is, when there's a filmed critical incident, is there someone that's going to review the tape and compare it to their training of that officer to see if it's effective, if we need to make changes, et cetera?
So, Mayor, members of the subcommittee, great question. We actually do that now. So with each of our critical incidents that we do have some type of camera system, either a home system, a business system, or the officer's wearing, we take those and critically assess what needs to be done differently. And this is going to give us and afford us the opportunity to do that with this system as well. I did want to reiterate, and I forgot to mention, that during the procurement process, it wasn't just city staff sitting at the table. We had labor at the table and a member of the community at the table too to help us pick this product.
And then my last question I have, I'm worried that your software for redacting could fail. Do you have a backup system to make sure when something goes out, everything is appropriate?
Chairman Nowakowski, Mayor Williams, while that is a possibility and we do have some redundancies in place, while we're confident that by entering into a contract with this vendor, because of the number of cameras they have, because of the platform they utilize, that won't be an issue. If it were to be an issue, we have some old standby software that we can utilize. If I could build upon your earlier question that the chief alluded to, and it ties into the earlier presentation as well about the value of the cameras. Pending approval, we will also have our recruits wear the technology during training. So what that will do, it will get them used to the cameras as they are training because of that muscle memory that we talk about in law enforcement so often. But also it will enhance the training because they'll get to review the videos during the basic training academy to see if there are opportunities to enhance communication or tactics or whatever the case may be.
Mr. Chairman, if I may too, our policy is very clear, Chief Kurtenbach wrote the policy, very clear on when our officers turn off the cameras. So when they're in the restroom, when they're on break, if they're having privileged conversation perhaps with a member of the public who wants to remain anonymous and wants to report a crime and or a victim of a sexual assault, a child. So there are very clear instances where officers are told to turn it off and turn it on, and it has to be justified in written documentation as well as informed by the supervisor.
Councilmember Mendoza, then the Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Accountability is very important to me. So what are the checks and balances to make sure that the officers aren't turning off the cameras? And how will you ensure that violators are written up if this happens?
Great question. We believe in accountability and responsibility. In the policy, supervisors are required to randomly check body-worn camera video once a month, an inspections lieutenant, so there is a lieutenant in each of the precincts who inspects body-worn camera video. They randomly select and pick that too. And as I mentioned previously, if I'm Jerry Williams and I'm having a privileged conversation with a person that wants to report a drug house next door, but I want to remain anonymous because I have to live in that neighborhood, I turn off the camera system, but the officer has to write down and justify why he or she turned it off, and then have to turn it back on, and then also have to let their supervisors know. So there are many checks and balances. We also run random checks too through our Professional Standards Bureau and the inspections unit. So we have 4, 5, 6 different levels of checking, and officers are required too to check the system before they come into work, and then they have to download when they're finished with work too.
Thank you.
Now, Chief, just to follow up with that, it turns on automatically if the police officer does what? If,
So that the automatic activation features we had mentioned were the officer opening his or her car door, and or if they turn on the lights and siren on the car, it would automatically activate. But again, you have that component in there that if they're going to the restroom or having lunch or doing other things, they could turn it off. But they're required by policy to turn it on in situations where we're engaging with the public.
so it's not the officer turning it on or off, it's automatically
Oh,
turned?
yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all right,
Sorry about that.
thank you. And if they turn it off, they have to have a written explanation why they turned it off during a long,
So they have to document it in some form, either written and or tell their supervisor, but it's either in a field information card, on their report, but they do have to write that down.
thank you. Vice Mayor?
So I'm sorry, this is a different question I thought I was gonna be asking. So they have to, they wanna go to the restroom. So they get out of their car, obviously, and it automatically turns it on, and now they're gonna go turn it off, or for lunch or whatever. They have to write up a report every time they do that?
They don't have to write a report, so they have to write a report if they're having a conversation, a privileged conversation with a community member where we would require them to have the camera on, they write a report. It's just natural and normal for them to
Okay,
turn.
so if they're talking to somebody who wants to remain anonymous.
Right, exactly.
That's when. they
Exactly,
have to-
but when I'm going to the restroom, I don't have to
Okay,
write a
all right. Well, I
report
just wanna
saying
make
that
sure
I'm
I
going to the restroom.
Got a little bit.
No,
Yeah,
I'm sorry
that-
about that.
Yeah, that was, I guess it's my bad, but
Sorry for the confusion.
that was definitely confusing. The technological improvements, so it's been, I think it was, you came on, I think, in October of 2016, so it's
2016.
been 2 years and 3 months, something like that. How much has the technology improved from that RFP process?
So I think it may be better for Chief Kurtenbach to
whoever.
answer that question, but what I like about the iteration of the Axon system is that they're constantly changing, learning, and improving. They are constantly having research and development being done because they're a premier system in this country. The technology has changed so much, I could have more than just 2 auto activation features. I could have a multitude of auto activation features. There are also some features coming online because I was at a presentation with major city chiefs that if Jerry Williams' camera automatically turns on during a critical incident, Mike may not even have to turn on his camera. There could be ways to turn on multiple cameras in one instances in one scene without the officer having to touch anything. So those are just some examples of some of the reiterations that I'm aware of. I don't know if Chief Kurtenbach has more.
Mr. Chairman, Vice Mayor Waring, with regard to redaction, it's important to remember with video, this video records at a frame rate of 30 frames per second. So for a simpleton like me, that's 30 individual pictures every second of video that have to be redacted. What this software will do is, for example, if there is a suspect and that suspect's face moves throughout the video, once the technology recognizes the face, it will continue with the face throughout the video. So you don't have to blur frame by frame by frame, which is initially what we had to do. And then go in and be assured that there wasn't one of 30 frames that wasn't properly redacted. It's also important to remember we have to redact audio sometimes. Some statements that, in a DUI case, for example, the gentleman said, well, why are you stopping me again? I just got arrested last week. That would be a problem for the defense, and the prosecution would reveal that. But this technology is much more user-friendly, I guess is the easiest term I could say, that allows us to go to different moments in time in the video. But the faces, that's the biggest one. And that's what this new redaction tool allows us to do that previous redaction tools weren't as effective at doing.
So the company, so the thing we talked about in the fall of 2016, those 2 companies merged, right? They were fighting in part over this contract. I can't remember the details of who did what to who, but I think they are merged, but that's not this stuff that we're talking about here, this capital.
Well, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, there was litigation going on between two vendors during the second procurement process, and one company bought the other out.
Or merged or bought out, whatever. But regardless, I guess my point is, we're basically starting over from scratch if we go
With this
forward
product,
with this.
yes, sir.
With a new product.
Yes, a
that
much
doesn't really,
improved
other than
product.
it's a camera, and we have to hire some people to run it, it's starting over from scratch. It's not a continuation. That's not right.
So, Mr. Chairman, Vice Mayor, this is brand-new technology. Remember, we added on 42 more features that we were looking at. It's high def, it's low light, it can redact information so much better. It's a totally different system. And if I may, to Mayor Williams' question that I got asked earlier this week, we're loading information into evidence.com, which is a system that the entire county uses. So the county attorney's office can go right to the cloud and obtain information. So we're just creating a whole new dynamic where it's going to be truly a lot more seamless than it has been in the past.
Right. I think I said we're basically, I mean, it's a different company, so it's different products.
Yes.
So that's kind of starting over from scratch. We may have had a baseline and added to the baseline of what we're looking for in the products. But for anybody who goes back and, because I know there was at least one huge newspaper article about that contract and the controversy and swirl surrounding it and so forth, that really doesn't have anything to do with this. Any swirl attached to that is sort of washed away. That was really what I was getting at. Okay, so this isn't just a continuation. This is a new thing. Other than we saved the money from that we didn't spend a couple of years ago.
All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion. Mrs. Rogers, did you want to speak on this one or public comment? I mean, we have you down for public comment, but if you like, okay.
I would like to move approval of staff's recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Motion carries. 3-1. Already called to the public, Mrs. Rogers.
Thank you. Members of the subcommittee, this new year, which is the last half of our fiscal year, but during this new year in your discussions for future planning, public safety and housing for people who are homeless or people who have only the ability to afford and pay for very subsidized housing. That is a critical need in this city, and it needs to be addressed. So in your future planning, because you're now going to begin in earnest, I would think, discussion for the budget year 1920. And those two departments, housing, public housing, and public safety need to be numero uno en dos. And there's no nickel and diming about it. The city has fallen way behind. And I started out at the invitation, if you can believe this, of our then councilman and today councilman DeCiccio to serve on the Housing and Neighborhood Commission, and that's how I got started. And it didn't take me very long to figure out this is a bunch of BS, that these groups of people are called together to emphasize and reaffirm what the mayor, and when I say the mayor, I'm including all of you who are elected too, want us to do. It didn't take me long to figure that out. We can't afford this go along to get along, keep doing it the same old way. Broaden your thinking. Broaden, if you have the ability, your imagination and your knowledge, absolute knowledge of what is critically needed now in this city and will be for probably the next decade. I won't be here that long. I'm at the end of the road. But please put it on your agendas at any subcommittee meeting that you each serve on and at council meetings for address. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Rogers. With that, future agenda items?
Mr. Chair, after reading in the paper this morning, Glendale passed a new texting ordinance. I believe we have one from '07. I had a copy with me. Can we review that? And can we also tell our legislative staff that to make that a priority, that it needs to be statewide, but I don't think ours is very strong. Compare it with what everybody else has, and maybe we can beef it up in case the state fails us again.
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll review it, yes. Did you want a discussion here, or you just want us to do that?
Actually, I'd like to have you bring it back and tell us what we have and maybe any improvements that's needed we could recommend.
Certainly.
Any other future agenda items? Alrighty, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.